17 months after the defeat of Sosukaisen at the cost of his Soul Reaper powers, Ichigo Kurosaki has been living in peace as a third-year high school student. On the way home from school, Ichigo incapacitates a thief and returns the stolen bag to its owner. The next day, the thief and his gang seek out Ichigo at his school and are confronted by Yuryu Ishida. Elsewhere, the owner of the stolen bag meets with his friends, revealing he has found Ichigo. Ichigo and Yuryu dispatch the gang with ease but are interrupted when Ichigo's part-time job boss, Ikumi Anagia, kidnaps and forces him to work. Their client, the owner of the stolen bag, requests an investigation on Isshin Kurosaki, Ichigo's father. Ichigo declines but is intrigued when the owner reveals that one of his younger sisters, Karen Kurosaki, had been visiting Kisukurahara. The owner introduces himself as Kugo Ginjo, gives Ichigo an execution business card and cryptically warns him to act before his family is hurt. Yuryu, passing by Ichigo's house, pursues a strange man and is critically injured as a result. While walking at night, Ichigo decides to forget his past and throws his substitute badge into the river. Later, he hears from Oraheim Inoue that Yuryu is in the hospital. At the hospital, Rukun Ishida sends Ichigo home and reveals to Oraheim the assailant was a human with powers and cautions her to be careful. The next day, Ichigo's friends, Keigo Asano and Mizuhiro Kojima, are attacked by the thief whom Ichigo had stopped prior. Ichigo saves them and meets Yuryu's assailant who flees when Rukun arrives. Ichigo, realizing he is being excluded from information due to his lack of powers, decides to contact Execution. After contacting Ginjo, Ichigo is led to the Execution headquarters and learns its members possess the ability dubbed as Fulbring, which allows them to manipulate the souls of inanimate objects. The cause of the power are residual spiritual energy from those who attacked their pregnant mothers. Yasutaro, Chad, Seido, who had been missing, appears at the headquarters, shocking Ichigo. Ginjo reveals that Execution plans to restore Ichigo's Soul Reaper powers in order to rid themselves of their Fulbring abilities. Ichigo declines, stating that he is only seeking information his family and friends are hiding from him. Yuryu's assailant stabs an incomplete hollow and asks for its cooperation. Ichigo returns home and resumes his life. Chad attempts to convince Ichigo to accept Execution's offer, stating that Ichigo himself wants the power to protect his loved ones. While walking through town, Ichigo sees Yuryu's assailant and pursues him but runs into his other younger sister, Yuzu Kurosaki, on the way. The hollow attacks them and are saved when Ginjo dispatches it. As a result, Ichigo returns to Execution and accepts their offer, and Ginjo returns Ichigo's substitute badge back to him. The next day, Ichigo is called into Execution headquarters to learn how to use the Fulbring abilities. Ichigo is shrunken and placed in a dollhouse by Riruka Dokugamin, where he has to defeat an aggressive pig plushie under a time limit set by Giriko Kutsuzawa. When Chad advises Ichigo to use his pride, Ichigo uses his substitute badge as the focal item to materialize his Fulbring. Ichigo defeats the pig plushie with his Fulbring and is freed from the dollhouse. Elsewhere, Oraheim is confronted by Mo Shishigawara, who intends to kill her. Shishigawara is then interrupted by his superior, Yuryu's assailant, who is revealed to be Shukuro Tsukishima. As Okishima prepares to punish Shishigawara for going against his orders, but Oraheim decides to intervene. Tsukishima pretends to impale Oriheim's chest and leaves her. Although Oraheim suffered no cuts, she starts having a vague idea that Tsukishima was her friend. Unwilling to worry Ichigo about what happened, she only tells Chad about Tsukishima. Aware that Oraheim is hiding information from him, Ichigo goes back to Execution headquarters and Gingo reveals that Tsukishima was Execution's original founding member, but when they found a substitute Soul Reaper to transfer of some their members' power, Tsukishima killed him and the members involved in the transfer before disappearing. In light of Tsukishima actions, Gingo decides to speed up Ichigo's training. Ichigo continues his training, but desires to actually battle one of the members of Execution. Ginjo suggests that Jackie Tristan should be his opponent, but she refuses and storms off. Meanwhile, Tsukishima sends Shishigawara to tail Chad. However, while Chad is wary of Shishigawara's presence, no attack on him is attempted. Later, Jackie decides that she will fight Ichigo in a fish tank after seeing him pass his training in a bird cage, both set up by Riruka. She fully introduces herself, activates her Fullbring using her boots and proceeds to attack a surprise Ichigo. Ichigo continues his training with Jackie. While at first, Jackie overwhelms him with her more experienced powers, Ichigo is able to activate a power of Fullbring known as Bringer Light to gain the advantage. As they go on with the battle, Ichigo's powers go out of control, but insists that he can still fight despite Jackie's insistence that they stop. It is then that Tsukishima attacks Execution, wanting to kill Ichigo. When Tsukishima cuts the fish tank containing Ichigo and Jackie, Ichigo appears, revealing the next stage of his Fullbring. Ichigo, Chad and Execution start their battle with Tsukishima. The battle is taken outside when Chad attacks Tsuki's Hima before he reveals he was the one who attacked Yuryu and Oraheim, but Ichigo finds it out anyway. Enraged, he starts to battle Tsukishima, but the expert Fullbringer overwhelms him. Ginjo then gets in the way and battles with Tsukishima instead, the two being more evenly matched. Yet Ichigo, who cannot just stand there and watch, attacks again and is able to land a hit, but is stopped by Yukio Hanswaralburner, who then proceeds to stop Tsukishima himself. While Ichigo is fully protected by Yukio's Fullbring, Chad, Ginjo and Riruka successfully manage to force Tsukishima to retreat. The group then moves to their second hideout to ponder what Tsukishima's motives really were, but they soon come to realize that they have been overthinking this. While Oraheim heals Yuryu, the two discuss the new threat but are unable to figure out if all the incidents so far were from the same culprit. Oraheim later runs into Chad, who brings her back to the Execution hideout to heal Ichigo, who has been training with Ginjo inside Yukio's Fullbring in a video game setting. Elsewhere, Urahara and Ishin plan to collect spiritual energy inside a vat with the help of a Soul Reaper, who is none other than Rukia Kuchiki. During the time skip of the 17 months, the Soul Reapers of the Soul Society celebrate the New Year. Izuru Kira is tasked to organize a special event for this occasion, though at first he was reluctant to participate. He hosts a friendly kite-flying activity, but it slowly turns into a chaotic competition among many of the squad divisions. Kira attempts to stop the chaos, but his plan ultimately fails. Later on, Rukia prepares for an upcoming ceremonial dance her late sister had been in many years ago, but she is unimpressed with her own dancing abilities. Renji Abarai decides to help her out, but she gets angry when he later accidentally spills ink on her ceremonial kimono and tells him to leave. After Rukia is given her late sister's kimono instead, she realizes that Renji was trying to help relax her so she would not worry so much about the dance. Rukia sends a letter of apology to Renji, who was able to come to the dance, which turns out to be a huge success. I see. Haigo continues his training with Ginjo while Oraheim heals him. Yet when Ginjo blinds him and starts to say antagonistic things to make Ichigo angry, Ichigo begins to doubt Ginjo's true intentions. Ian Ginjo claims that he will kill Chad and Oraheim. Ichigo is able to notice his spiritual pressure. Ichigo then manages to wound Ginjo with his Fullbring, reaching its final level, and Ginjo apologizes for his acting. After Ichigo achieves the final level of Fullbring, he spends his time perfecting it, with Execution deciding to protect Ichigo so that they can complete their goal. Riruka goes to search Chad and Oraheim, who are investigating Tsukishima. Riruka ends being ambushed by Tsukishima, who attacks her with his Fullbring. Tsukishima then confronts Chad and Oraheim, who are unable to kill him as a result of his Fullbring causing him to be part of their memories. After Ichigo puts the finishing touches on completing his Fullbring, Ginjo tells him to go home to see his sisters, but Tsukishima activates his Fullbring that was placed on Ichigo's friends and sisters in order to make them believe that he is a close relative of the Kurosaki family. After running out, Ichigo encounters Ginjo, who tells Ichigo that all the other members of Execution have fallen under Tsukishima's control. Ichigo and Ginjo, figuring out Tsukishima's Fullbring can manipulate the memories of the people he cuts down, are found out by Yukio, who brings them to Tsukishima's mansion. The two are welcomed by Ichigo's affected friends and sisters, but Ichigo, unable to fight with all of them in the crosshairs, runs away to a safer location, only to be stopped by the brainwashed Execution. Ginjo destroys the staircase and takes on his fellow members himself while Ichigo fights Tsukishima. Ichigo is able to gain the upper hand with his Fullbring and severely injures Tsukishima's arm. However, Chad and Orihime, also affected, arrive and stop him from finishing Tsukishima off, as they explain how he has been a part of their lives from the start. Chad and Orihime, who believe Ichigo has gone crazy, try to prevent him from attacking Tsukishima, even when the fight is taken outside. Meanwhile, Ginjo, while confronting his fellow members, runs into trouble with Shishigawara and his lucky punchers. An overwhelmed Ichigo is soon about to be slashed by Tsukishima, but Ginjo takes the hit instead. After Ginjo seems to be unaffected, Yuryu suddenly arrives and claims that Ginjo was his assailant instead of Tsukishima. Before Ichigo can react, he is struck down by Ginjo, who reveals that he allowed Tsukishima to slash him twice to return to his original self. He stabs Ichigo with his sword and says he will take Ichigo's Fullbring. Ginjo is able to take Ichigo's Fullbring and apply its power to his own. Unable to do anything about his situation, Ichigo falls deep into despair and runs after Ginjo, demanding for Ginjo to give him his power back. Ichigo is then impaled by a sword held by Rukia, which causes him to become a Soul Reaper once again. The sword is revealed to possess the powers from the 13 Court Guard squads in order to assist Ichigo in his fight against Ginjo. Ichigo attacks Ginjo with a Getsuga Tensho, which is powerful enough to clear away a thunderstorm and slice Tsukishima's mansion in half. Ichigo eventually overpowers Ginjo using his regained Soul Reaper powers, and he also learns that he regained his powers, thanks to the spiritual energies given by all of the captains and lieutenants. Toshiro Hatsugaya reveals that Ginjo was the first substitute Soul Reaper. Meanwhile, Chad and Orihime rush to Ichigo, confused as to why Ginjo is being attacked. Tsukishima appears behind them and tries to break their minds by adding new memories to their past, but Urahara and Isshin knock them out. As promised, Ginjo gives the other execution members new powers of their own. Ichigo attempts to take them down, but Yukio uses his new powers to protect them and separate the others. Kenpachi Zaraki quickly takes care of Kutsuzawa and cuts him in half, killing him instantly. Yuryu comes to assist Ichigo in his battle against Ginjo. Byakuya Kuchiki prepares to start fighting Tsukishima while Riruka ambushes Rukia using stuffed animals. Renji encounters Jack Ai and defeats her without the use of his Zanpakuto, having trained to fight an opponent at Aizen's level. As Yukio then attempts to destroy the dimension where Renji and Jackie are situated, he is confronted by Hatsugaya. Hatsugaya manages to capture Yukio in ice and attempts to force him to free his comrades. Meanwhile, Ikaku Madaram confronts Shishigawara, managing to find his Fullbring's weakness and overpower him. Tsukishima, revealing that he can use his Fullbring on inanimate objects as well, hits Byakuya's Zanpakuto, thus learning all he needs to know about Byakuya's weaknesses. Meanwhile, Rukia fights against Riruka and gets her body trapped in a stuffed animal, and attempting to fight with Kido was ineffective. Riruka tells about how the Fullbringers, through their tragic childhood pasts, were gathered together to form execution. Using this distraction as an opportunity, Rukia touches Riruka with her Zanpakuto, but Riruka, unable to dodge Rukia, uses a special ability from her Fullbring to vanish while causing Rukia to collapse. Meanwhile, Tsukishima is able to overwhelm Byakuya and manages to inflict a serious injury. However, Byakuya shoots out his Bankai from his hand, piercing Tsukishima's chest. Before Tsukishima falls to the ground, Byakuya thanks him for an exciting battle. Ichigo and Yuryu continue their battle with Ginjo. However, when Ginjo senses that Tsukishima is near death, he tells Ichigo they no longer have a reason to fight while revealing that the substitute Soul Reapers have been constantly spied on by the Soul Society to monitor their actions. However, using his Bankai to destroy the dimension with the other Soul Reapers looking on, Ichigo admits knowing about the revelation yet still intends to trust the Soul Society for aiding him in protecting the people close to him. This as Ginjo releases his own Bankai in response to Ichigo's resolve as the two have a final clash. The battle between Ichigo and Ginjo comes to a close when the latter receives a mortal wound. Just as Ginjo is about to die, the dying Tsukishima tries to kill Ichigo but is stopped by Riruka as she emerges from Rukia's body. Shishigawa proceeds to carry Tsukish timer away while the other surviving execution members decide to separate. Ichigo later returns to the Soul Society and requests that Genrusei Shigekuni Yamamoto let Ginjo's body be buried within the hum. And world does the last thing he can do for him. Yamamoto agrees just as Ichigo accepts to continue being a substitute Soul Reaper. Rukia sees Ichigo off, recalling their time together and silently thanks him. Ichigo returns to Karakura town where he is greeted by his friends and family.